Have you ever seen a pair of eyes staring at you from outside your window? Today, we will be exploring some of the scariest true home invasion horror stories. Please like and subscribe before we begin. I, a female, was 25 at the time. This was 2018, and I lived with my boyfriend in our hometown. It's a small city that's relatively poor and has some drug problems as there's not much to do. My boyfriend, now husband, was at his friend's house. It was a Saturday night, and he said he'd be home around 9. He was about 2 towns over, a 20-minute drive. At the time, we lived in a duplex, split upstairs and downstairs. It used to be a big house, converted into a duplex. My cousin actually rented the downstairs apartment, and she was kind of loud. I knew when she was and wasn't home. She wasn't home that night. The way our street was situated, the backs of the houses on my street and the parallel street all faced a narrow alley, and the driveways were, mostly, only accessible this way. The downstairs unit had a front porch with a door and a side door. Our upstairs unit had a back door, and it was at the top of an outside set of wooden stairs. So anyway, I'm home watching TV alone. I hear someone coming up the stairs and knocking on the door. It's 8:30. It wouldn't be that unusual for my boyfriend to be home early. Maybe they got bored playing video games, or he just felt like leaving. I usually would unlock the door for him when he came home instead of using his keys because it was dark and could be a hassle. So I got up and opened the door to someone who was not my boyfriend. It was a pretty thin man, wearing 2 big jeans and a hoodie. He had about 4 teeth and was teetering back and forth. I was so shocked considering I was positive it was my boyfriend coming home. The guy at the door asks me, "Can I use your phone?" Behind him, down the stairs, and in the alley, I see a big SUV, a Ford Explorer type of vehicle just idling, with someone in the driver's seat. I panic and just say, "Yeah, hold on." I then shut and locked the door. I think I was more shocked that it was a stranger at my door and not my boyfriend than anything else. I hide so he cannot see me through the front door window and am frozen. Something was just telling me this was not okay. After a few minutes, I hear him start walking down the stairs. I go over to the door and see the car drive away down the alley. I called my boyfriend and told him, and he said he'd leave. But as I said, it was a 20-minute drive. He was about to leave anyway. After he got home, I calmed down and honestly felt silly. Why not just lend him my phone? Was it really that weird? But then, I thought about it more over the next few days. It was 2018. This guy and whoever was driving, between the two of them, neither one had a phone. And it wasn't like they were having car trouble. What would they want a stranger's phone for? They also went down an alley and to the backside of a house, up some stairs, to ask for a phone. They didn't go to my cousin's front door downstairs. I would have heard someone on the porch. They did not go to any other house. I saw them leave the street entirely. Also, why go to a house to ask for a phone when there's no car in the driveway? And of course, our battery-powered security camera was dead at the time. I genuinely am not sure what they wanted. If anyone has any idea or thinks I'm overthinking it, let me know. But creepy guy at my door, let's not meet again. This all started a couple of days ago, July 5th, when I'd get a random call from FedEx around 10 p.m. where they would ask me for my name and address, which they already knew. I gave it to them, thinking it might be a package that was lost and somehow found its way back to my home. Hindsight. I should have known FedEx doesn't deliver past 8 p.m. here in Canada. I thought nothing of it till I got another phone call saying they couldn't find my unit number and asked me to come out to the roundabout near my place. My dad thought it was weird, so he patrolled the area to find these people. My dad did around 4 laps. The first lap, there wasn't anything there. But then I got curious and joined him for the second lap. Yet, again, nothing. I went back into my home, and my dad did a third lap around the house. He found a gray SUV in the corner and confronted them. They told my dad they weren't the delivery person, and my dad left to do another confirmation check. As he was doing this last lap, that same SUV wasn't there. The next day, July 6th, around 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., we heard a doorbell ringing, and I went down to check, and it was 2 individuals around the ages of 20. They knew my name and were calling out for me. I thought it was weird, because I'd never seen them before. I didn't feel safe, so I didn't pursue them. They kept coming over and over again, so we called the police and talked about what we should do. The cops told me to contact them if this happens again. The next day, July 7th, it was very quiet, and nothing weird happened, so we thought the worst had ended and just went on with our day. The next day, July 8th, it was the same quietness, but when the time approached 11 p.m., my security camera spotted an individual with a mask on taking a photo video of my current house. This was the breaking point. We contacted the police and informed them about this weird behavior. Just when you thought it was over, I was casually in the living room around 3 a.m. the same day, July 8th, when I heard something thunking outside my balcony. I thought it could be anything and didn't mind it till it thunked again. I went to the balcony to see what I was hearing. Then it clicked. I was face to face with the intruder. I started screaming for help, and my family came down to check out the commotion. Thank God I checked the balcony that day. Who knows what else could have happened? Today is July 9th, and I haven't got a wink of sleep in thinking of the terror that I faced. Am I one of the targets of a home invasion? How did they get my name? What do they want from me? I am in university right now, but staying with my parents at their house for the summer. I was hanging out with one of my friends, and we decided to go to a party. I met this guy around my age. We were talking and having fun, but it was nothing too serious, or so I thought. We exchanged phone numbers. We hung out a couple of times, but he became incredibly clingy right from the start, so I decided to distance myself in the hope that he would get the hint and back off. Well, he didn't. When I stopped responding, he sent me over 100 messages, with each message becoming increasingly more aggressive as time went on. Keep in mind, it had been less than 2 weeks since we first met. I finally responded and told him he needed to chill out. He appeared to calm down a bit after I responded, but he then asked for a phone call. I agreed, and we talked for a while. He told me that he couldn't stop thinking about me, that I was the best thing that ever happened to him, etc. Just a bunch of stuff that is way too intense to say to someone you barely know. I tried to let him down gently, reminding him that I was only home for the summer and wasn't looking for anything serious beyond a fling. But this only made him angrier. He started yelling at me, insulting me, calling me a slut, basically a complete 180 from what he had been saying mere minutes ago. Then, all of a sudden, the phone went silent. After a pause, he said in a quiet voice, "Bitch, you had better get ready because I am coming over for you." And then he hung up the phone. This was very frightening because he knew my parents were out of town for the week and that I was staying at their house alone. However, he didn't know where my parents' house was because I was always the one driving, and he didn't know my friend either, so I thought he had no way of figuring it out. Since, again, I'm normally living at school in another state. Regardless, I locked all the doors and shut the blinds just in case. After a while, maybe an hour or so, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I looked at my phone and saw a notification on my lock screen. It was from the Ring app, indicating there had been movement on my parents' camera. It was him. If you watch the video, you can clearly see something in his hand. When he notices the camera, however, he leaves. I immediately blocked him on everything and reported the incident. I have no idea what he planned to do once he got here. It was terrifying to realize that he had come over when I was asleep and defenseless and completely unaware of his presence. As I would later find out, he was able to get my address from my phone number. Apparently, he Googled it, and it returned my dad's name as the owner of the phone number, along with my parents' address. Since I am on my parents' phone plan, I guess it shows up that I still live here. This revelation was freaking horrifying, as I never knew my phone number could reveal my home address. I am still extremely upset that this kind of private information is on the internet for anyone to find, as it's incredibly dangerous that websites will just give this away to anyone. Please learn from my mistakes and do not give anyone your phone number unless you trust them. I found out that you can get a free Google Voice number to text and call people, and that number can't be traced back to you so easily. My advice is to use a disposable number for anyone you're talking to that you meet informally or online. I still can't sleep at night. Hopefully, this never happens to anyone else. So, about 12 years ago, I was 9 years old, and I was home alone with my 12-year-old brother. We were supposed to go to my aunt's house to have lunch and wait for my mother there. We always did that because we were too young to stay home alone, according to my mom. We got up at 10:30 a.m. I took a shower, then my brother. After that, we were both in the bathroom brushing our teeth and finishing up when we heard someone knocking on our door. Since every time someone knocked at our door, they turned out to be salesmen or Jehovah's Witnesses, we kind of waited for them to go away. After a couple of minutes, I went to see if they were still outside through the window, and no one was there. What a relief. We continued getting ready when we saw a shadow go by through the bathroom window, which was kind of like a small square made with that kind of glass that made everything behind it really blurry. We waited and saw in case it was just a bird flying by, when a hand hit it, clear as day. We got scared. We didn't know what to do. My brother had a cell phone, so he immediately called the police. While it was ringing, we heard a loud bang at the door. Someone was brute forcing it. I don't know if they were kicking it or ramming it, but it was one of the most frightening things I've ever heard. My brother told me to lock the bathroom door, so I did. It took 5 bangs, so the perpetrator could finally bash open the door, Then the police answered. I remember the exact thing my brother said. He was whispering, and his voice could barely be heard. Hello, there is someone in our house. I think they are stealing. Then a pause. We are at our address. Another pause. I'm with my little brother locked in our bathroom. Please hurry. While all that, I was sitting against the wall, hugging my knees. It was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences ever. I could hear the man going through all of our stuff, emptying stands, going up and down the stairs, opening cabinets. He even broke a few cups and plates. Don't know why. Then I heard the sound my cell phone does when it turns off, and I remembered leaving it on the kitchen table. I felt so stupid for leaving it there. Things continued for a couple of minutes when we heard him trying to open the door to the bathroom. My brother got a hold of a big metal rod we had lying around there. He started kicking the door. "Who is there?" the man screamed. We said nothing. Another kick, then another. I felt I was about to have an anxiety attack. My chest started to ache. I had chills and was really hot. I tried to remain calm, but it was just too much. After that, he stopped. We heard the door opening, and then silence. We waited for almost 10 minutes before going out of the bathroom. The living was a total mess, with lots of papers and books on the floor. The cabinets were open, and cups and plates were on the floor. In our mother's bedroom, the nightstand and the closet were open, and everything inside them was all over the place. Upstairs, in our room, it was the same thing. In about 5 minutes, the man was able to go through everything we had and left a total mess. After that, my brother called my mom, and she ordered us to go to my aunt's ASAP, so we did. When we got there, I was a little more relaxed. My aunt was waiting for us with ice cream, probably because my mom told her everything, and she wanted to calm us down a bit. We went back home at about 5 o'clock. My mom told her boss she had a home emergency, so she left early. She tidied up the house, cleaned up, and left everything the way it was before, so we could be relaxed. I really appreciate her effort and my aunt's to calm us down and do everything so we didn't have to think about it. According to my mom, the police got home after she arrived at 3 o'clock, 4 hours after the incident. She explained everything, but because of a lack of evidence, nothing could be done. The man was never caught, and honestly, I don't think they even tried to search for him. The next days, my mom was home with us. Now I tell the story as a funny anecdote. Luckily, no one was hurt, and he only took useless stuff. But at the time, I was really scared. To a 9-year-old, an experience like that can have serious repercussions. I'm lucky it never came to that, and I got over that after a couple of weeks. So yeah, that is my story. Recently, I moved out of my apartment. I simply had to, because I didn't feel safe with my landlords. I lived in this really nice Dumbo apartment in Brooklyn for a few months with my roommate, who paid for most of the rent since her parents are super rich. Our landlords were actually this seemingly really sweet couple who lived a few floors above with their kids. The first few weeks were somewhat normal, except for the fact that every time I saw their kids in the elevator, they would scream at me before they got off, and then just ran away. I thought it was funny and cute at first, but then their eldest son came to visit and started doing the same thing, and he looked about my age. I didn't really think much of it since maybe he was just playing with his younger siblings. Shit weird, really, when I bumped into all of them together and we talked for a bit. Out of nowhere, while we were having a pleasant conversation, the dad apologized to me, saying that his son might act strange. Because he's a retard. I was pretty shocked by him just saying that out of the blue. I paused for a bit, and I can't really remember what I said, but remember just wanting to get the hell out of this conversation now. A few days later, I bump into the dad again in the elevator. I was pretty standoffish, and he was just talking about how great my apartment is, and how much of a generous guy he is for giving us such a low rate. Then he asked if I could babysit his kids, as he and his wife and his eldest son would be at a dinner. I said no at first, but he counter-offered saying he'd pay $150 an hour, and being the greedy idiot that I am, I agreed. This is where I fricked up. When I got to his place, I was speechless. His apartment wrapped around the entire floor of the building. It was the nicest apartment I will ever see, that's for sure. About an hour in, everything was normal. I was playing some fighting game with his kids when we suddenly heard the front door slam. I told them to stay there as I peeked to see what was going on, and I saw the dad falling all over the place, clearly drunk as hell. He started walking toward me, and at the last minute, fell face first onto his couch. I must have popped a blood vessel trying to hold in my laughter. I asked if he was okay and walked over to assist him. He then turned around, looked at me, and said, "My wife will let us, please." I tried asking what he meant, but his wife walked up to me, thanked me, paid me, and told me to come back another time. I just kinda went back to my apartment in shock, wondering what the frick just happened, and I definitely wasn't going back. I told my roommate, and she told me that she also bumped into the dad, and he told her, "My wife is cool, just so you know," with no explanation, and just left. At this point, we knew that we sure as hell were not renewing our lease. We didn't see our landlords until our final month. We kind of joked to our friends about how our landlords were creepy cucks. The next time I saw them was actually with my boyfriend, who was well aware of what they were trying to do. It was an intensely awkward elevator ride, as when they saw us in there, they just went quiet and smiled and nodded at us repeatedly. As we step out of the elevator, the dad shouts, "Hey" to us, and winks at me as the doors closed. After that, I asked my BF to stay with us for the remainder of our lease cause. At this point, my roommate and I were freaked the fuck out. Our final and creepiest encounter was a few days before moving out. My roommate walked out of the apartment, and both the landlords were sitting in front of the elevators, waiting for us. She said they started sobbing when they saw her, and then begged us to stay. They apparently apologized for making us uncomfortable, and said they thought we were the pretty young girls they were waiting for. She didn't say a word to them, and got on the elevator and called me to warn me they were outside, and then they started to knock. My BF answered and said, when the guy saw him, he asked if I was there. Of course, my BF said no, but they tried walking in anyway. I walk out of my room saying I'll call the police if they don't leave, and they beg me to not and run out of the apartment. A few days ago, we got a text from a random number saying we could live there for 6 months free if we just gave them a few nights. Of course, blocked and deleted. The whole thing was such an uncomfortable experience living there all those months, especially knowing they had keys to our apartment. When I was 17, my bedroom had a window looking out at my backyard. The backyard was fenced in, but on the other side of the fence were some woods and a retention pond. I'd never been scared of this, and kept the blinds open so that when the sun rose in the morning, the natural light would help wake me up. One night, I was up late on my phone with my dog laying in bed next to me. At around 2 a.m., my dog jumped up and started barking at the window. At first, I thought he was just barking at his reflection and told him to stop. But I then realized he was looking at the left side of the window while his reflection was on the right. I couldn't see outside the window because I had left the lamp on my nightstand on. All I could see in the window was the reflection of my bedroom. Not wanting to alert whatever might be out there that I was scared, I faked a yawn, set my phone aside, and turned off the lamp. I then laid down facing the window, and I swear I saw a set of human eyes looking back at me from the left side of the window. I drink a lot of water at night, so I had an empty bottle on my nightstand. I grabbed it and pretended to just realize it was empty. I turned on the lamp and acted like I was going to get water. I went to my parents' room, and my dad told me not to worry. We had these motion-activated floodlights, and they hadn't turned on, so there was no way anything was out there. I went back to my room and told myself I was just seeing things. I closed the blinds, turned off the lamp, and got some sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I went to take my dog out and decided to check out the pine straw bedding underneath my window. It was visibly disturbed. I did my best to ignore that and remember what my dad said about the floodlights. That worked pretty well until my dad tested the floodlights later that day and found that the bulbs had burnt out. To this day, I keep my blinds closed and my lamp off when I sleep. I don't want to risk anything being able to see me. And if anything is somehow peeking through my window, I want to know it's there. If there was someone at my window that night, let's not meet. To everyone who has had a similar experience, I hope everything turned out okay and that you're doing well. To anyone who does this peeking through window stuff, F off.